Hello, today is Mother's Day 2026, and I want to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time because I know I am not alone in this. Um, Many of us find Mother's Day to be a challenging day for various reasons, even those who don't have children. Um, so I'll go back to my childhood when I was young as a kid. Um, I loved my mother fiercely. Um, I remember in elementary school and in kindergarten, we would make little crafts for our mothers for Mother's Days. And but as I got older, I don't remember buying cards when I was like junior high, early high school. But I do remember um, later high school when I had a little bit of my own money from little money I made from babysitting. I was able to buy my own cards for my mother in a gift. Um, I did it because I loved her. She was the only mother I knew. Um, Although I felt like, well, it was clear to me that they favored their son. I felt like she didn't love me like she should have. She actually was not the mother that I really truly needed. Um, there was a lot of neglect, and there was a lot of abuse. It was an extremely volatile upbringing. Um, as I got older, finally moved out of their home, or should I say escaped out of their home, and living on my own with a couple of roommates. I still never forgot my mother, and and she was my only mother. I felt like I had to love her. I mean, she's my mother. Um, but as I got a little older, I started realizing that I had more free will to decide whether or not I wanted to, spend my money on nice things for my mother. And I don't want to say I bought her cheap things. I didn't, but I was a little more careful with the cards that I picked out because a lot of the cards are so mushy, and I did not like that. I want to get her a more generic card. I wanted her to know that I loved her and I cared about her, but I did not have this deep love and connection with my own mother that a lot of my um, friends had with their mothers. Um, so I would find the most generic card that I could find and get her a gift. And I never forgot her on Mother's Day, except for there was one year that I had estranged myself from her for her and her husband and the whole family for very good reasons. So that was the one year that I didn't acknowledge Mother's Day. But as time went on, I continued, to do the obligatory Mother's Day acknowledgement, but it still bothered me that so many of the cards are, these mushy cards that just were not true for so many mothers. And I know I've talked to other friends over the years and who felt the same way. Um, as it, as I got older and then I got married, um, and I became mother myself. It still kind of bothered me. I still didn't care for Mother's Day, um, and there's a reason for that. When I got married, when I was younger, I've mentioned this before. Never really aspired to get married and have children. I kind of went back and forth on that actually. And then when I did get married and we were not planning to have children, and then we decided, well, let's have a baby. I lost my very first baby on a Mother's Day weekend. And I lost my very last baby, which was a surprise, completely unplanned, but still, um, I would have, I love to, start falling in love with the idea of having another baby, and then I lost that one on a Mother's Day weekend. But as I start raising my children, um, I start realizing more and more just how different my upbringing was compared to how I was trying to raise my own children. And I, over time, started becoming lower contact with my mother, but I still remembered her every year on Mother's Day. By this point, we had moved 1,000 miles away because of the military, but I still remembered her on Mother's Day with a phone call. Most of the time, would send her a gift. Um, but it was still, kind of challenging. But I wanted her to know I still cared about her and I still loved her. But as time went on, I realized, she definitely was not the mother that I really truly needed. And I had, early on, I had actually prayed and wished for a mother figure, somebody that I could call on when I had a concern or if I had a question, or somebody I could talk to about dating, or just anything, because I never felt comfortable or even safe being that close to my mother. I mean, she did a lot of things to me that were completely inappropriate for mothers to do to their daughters. And I might talk about that later on, but when I was younger, I thought, well, is this what all mothers do to their daughters? I found out as an adult, no, that is not what all mothers do to their daughters. Not only did she not protect me from her husband and son, she violated me too. But, I've forgiven my mother. But a few years ago, my mother did admit to me that she did treat me differently from her son because I was so independent. I didn't need anything. I didn't need any help, which, I did everything I could on my own without any help. Yeah, I struggled at times as a single person. It changed after I got married, but just because I was independent didn't mean that I didn't need a little bit of a boost occasionally, but her son was sucking everything from her. I also, one reason I developed boundaries too is because I just got tired of her lying to me about so many things. But about 3 years ago, when her health started to decline, that's 4 years ago, she and I, had a good talk, and I felt probably more love for my mother at that time than I had in years. This time I saw her as a broken person, somebody who'd been hurt all her life. Not only was she abused during her childhood by her father and abandoned by her father, but her marriage was fraught with abuse. Our home was fraught with abuse. Her husband abused me. She didn't know how to protect me because she was being hurt herself. She was dealing with her own demons. I had more compassion for her. My heart hurt for her. And for once I saw a glimmer of hope for our relationship, even though at this point her health was declining. And she was in the very, very early stages of dementia. But it felt good that she finally acknowledged and apologized to me. And even though I had forgiven her, I really truly felt like I did forgive her for real. But as time went on, those next couple of years, I put myself in, you know, out there to help her and her husband navigate, the medical stuff and financial stuff, because their son nearly sent them into financial ruin. And there's so much evidence with that too. And he could deny it all he wants, but I have all the evidence. And I've talked a little bit about this, I believe, in a couple of my other videos, but things were going good. I mean, I was the loyal daughter. I continued, all these years, and I was willing to sacrifice, part of my life to help them because they needed help. But then August of 2024, things started changing, and suddenly my mother's husband started abusing me again. And I stood up to him, to his face, for the first time in my entire life in September of that year, 2024. And I always knew in the back of my mind that if I ever said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, I knew it would be the highway for me. And sure enough, it was the highway for me. But he was decent enough, though, those next few months to allow me to talk to my mother on the phone. But I have not seen her since September 2024 when I was down there in Florida. He was good about letting me talk to her on the phone, although my mother couldn't get to the phone because of her mobility issues and her mind was starting to go. He would, I would call, but he would let the phone go to voicemail, and then he would call back and hand the phone to her right away. Didn't even bother to say hi to me or anything. Well, he was mad at me, which was fine because I don't care to talk to him ever again. What he did to me was just, it is unforgivable. But, I did enjoy talking to my mother, and she, she remembered, she knew who I was, and we would talk, and I'd remind her how much I loved her. And she knew, because I even told her, I said, I don't know if your husband will ever let me see you again, but know that no matter what happened between us, that I still love you. You gave me life. You're the only mother I've ever had. So, the last time I talked to her it was over a year ago. When I called, tried to talk to her. No, actually, her husband tried to call me, and I did answer the phone, and he started screaming at me again, and I told him I'm not taking any more of that. And so I've not had any contact with my mother since then, because that's how he is. If he doesn't get his way about something, he's going to make sure to make life hell for those who offended him. And I, have occasionally tried to call. He won't even have the decency to hand the phone to my mother to let me talk to her. But last year, even though I had not talked to her, I did still send her a Mother's Day gift. It was small, inexpensive, but something to let her know that I was thinking about her, because, I'd always given her something every year for Mother's Day, for her birthday, for Christmas, no matter what. As little as they did for me throughout my childhood and into my adulthood, I still thought of them. Because after all, they were the only parents I had, until I found my biological father, actually, 3 years ago. But he has since passed away. But that's beside the point too. But this year is different. There's not going to be a phone call, and I didn't send a gift this year because I don't even know if my mother's husband even had the decency to give her her gift last year. She probably doesn't even remember me. If she does, she probably thinks I'm this horrible person because I'm sure her husband has brainwashed her to think that I'm this horrible person that he's telling everybody else I am. I am actually the villain, and Ocean is talking. So everything that their son has done, I am now the one who's done all that, which I have not. I've had my own life all these years. I've never depended on them for anything. Everything that I've accomplished is on me, not on any of them. Their son can't say the same. But anyway, this year, I keep saying I've moved on. And actually, I am doing a lot better. My blood pressure is back down to normal again, finally, after a couple of years. But it still hurts. Still hurts that I don't have a mother anymore. Not because she's dead. I don't know if she's even alive. I really don't. I've, tried keeping up with the obituaries in their area. But I wouldn't put it past her husband to not even post an obituary because he'll do everything he can to keep me from knowing anything about my mother because that's the type of person he is. Ocean. So anyway, so it's still hard to not have contact with the person who gave birth to me. But I am very blessed to have the children that I have. They have made good decisions as they've gotten older. They've not followed the crowd. They've made me very proud. I never thought, I'd have children. In fact, I was told years ago that I would likely not be able to become pregnant for a couple of different reasons. So my children really, truly are miracles. They're amazing. They're amazing people. So Mother's Day is definitely going to be different from here on out. And I just hope that my children know that I love them no matter what, unconditionally, no matter what happens. I did my very best to be a different mother than my mother was. There's still a lot of room for improvement. But I feel like I've become a better mother. I don't know if my children will agree with that, but I feel like I've become better. I've encouraged my children to grow up. I've not held them back, unlike what happened to me. My children are pursuing careers in education. They know they have an identity. They know what they want to do. When I was their age, I was confused. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know who I was supposed to be, because I didn't have any guidance. And I've done my best to, guide my kids. But, I also want to acknowledge, Mother's Day. Mother's Day is for all women, single, childless, those who only have fur kids. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, because if it wasn't for your own mothers, you wouldn't be here. I'm so blessed with the friends that I do have. I don't have a large circle of close friends, but those who I am the closest to, um, I don't think they'll ever know how much I love and appreciate them. They have been a huge source of support for me, especially in the last couple of years. And not just my friends, but my cousins who are also my best friends. I don't know where I'd be today without them. So anyway, happy Mother's Day to all of my friends and my cousins, the childless ones, the ones who have fur kids. All of you are deserving of recognition on Mother's Day. Thank you for listening.